Hello and welcome to ATG, the podcast. Today we're talking to Dr. Janice Fernandes, who is Academic Support Manager at the University of West London. Janice has a fascinating background and an enthusiasm for new technology, which is very compelling and I think will be apparent from her comments. So, welcome, Janice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks
Can
for
we
having
begin?
me.
Thank you. Can we begin with something about your background? So, I believe you were born in India, yeah?
Yes. So I was born in Goa, which is a small state in India, ruled by the Portuguese. And so I have very strong Portuguese influence. However, I was born and brought up in Mumbai, which is a melting pot of cultures, of different um, food habits, dress sense, a way of talking, languages. And I think growing up in that environment, I speak five Indian languages. I'm sort of a mix, and a lot of people can't really pin me down. So I think it's a really nice balance of a slightly European influence and a very strongly Indian influence. So I have completed around more than 35 years in librarianship. Uh, 25 of those spent in Mumbai, and I moved to the UK just 8 years ago, armed with a doctorate in information science. That's sort of the mix.
Fascinating. Well, we'll find out a bit more about all of this. So, but I believe an example of your mix is you started by studying chemistry. So, how did you become interested in science?
Well, I was always interested in science. I thought I might have the medical DR to my name when I was a child. When I eventually got my doctorate, it was, I think, a dream come true to have that DR before my name. If not in medicine, then in librarianship.
Mhm.
Uh, but I started out with chemistry and microbiology. I have always been keen to understand the human body, to think how it works in tandem like a perfect machine, to think what makes it work. Um, I was the first in my family to go to university, but my dad was well read, and we always had a library at home. And I read Jane Eyre and the Pickwick Papers and Charles Dickens uh, many, many years ago. And we still had those really old, yellowed pages of that literature. So I think there was something in me that sort of got drawn to literature even before I really realized it. Uh, but I think somehow when you think in your mind this balance between science and numbers, I would always opt for the science bit.
Fascinating. So, at what point did you switch from science to libraries and information science?
Oh, that's actually interesting. So when I graduated with a bachelor's honors in chemistry, was the day that my father retired, and so I had no other option other than to go and get a job. The Even though I wanted to do my masters at that time, financially it wasn't really possible. The first job that came up was in a library in a polytechnic institution, which required a science graduate at that time. And eventually, the idea was that you would get some sort of a certification in librarianship going on.
Mm.
So I went for the interview, I got selected. That was my first job. I stayed there for 15 years in that polytechnic, and then
Gosh,
I moved on to an engineering institution on the same campus. So a
fascinating.
long stint with St. Xavier's Technical Institute in Mumbai, and then the Xavier Institute of Engineering,
Right,
run by the Jesuits.
right. And these were higher education institutes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, and from there, where did you develop the interest in actually learning about? I mean, many librarians sort of work in libraries for years and years without ending up with a PhD. So, where did the interest in finding out more about it come from?
I don't know, when I look back, I sort of think it is always a basic curiosity in my mind to sort of sift out what I would be more aligned to, what I would probably like to explore more, as opposed to things that don't really capture my interest. And when I did go on to do my bachelor's in library science, I sort of found that I was academically inclined. I sort of developed my skills for writing academically. I sort of found that I have that, and then my very strong communication skills. Sort of brought it to the forefront, because when you think librarianship, you always think the circulation desk. No matter which part of the library you might work in, you put the user at the center of all your conversations. And so, if your communication skills are strong enough to be able to understand those unspoken needs, I think these are the sort of roles that you sort of automatically bend to. And librarianship captured my interest because information or understanding information started getting more important at the time when I maybe in the 90s and in the 2000s. Let me tell you, my first day at work. So I was given this lovely desk, very nice, and there was a computer in front of it. This was so many years ago, in a country which didn't really know technology as much as the Western world did. And it was just figure it out. This is what you're going to be using, and we have a library software, and you're going to be making the changes that are required, and this is what we need done. So it was, from the day one, it was sort of learn, relearn, unlearn,
Mhm.
that sort of a process. And I think all of my work environment has always been that sort of a unlearn, learn, relearn process. And
Mm.
so when there's a new wave that comes in, like I just put
Mm.
the same sort of framework as unlearn, learn, relearn.
Sounds fascinating. What was the topic of your PhD?
It was accreditation of engineering college libraries, more to do with quality assurance, more to do with policies of the governing bodies, how implementation of these policies changes the institution itself, changes the human resources in the institution, the
Mm.
infrastructure in the institution. And some changes maybe the management is forced to make to
Mhm.
adhere to those policies, and some of those changes are inherent and come in, but a number of those changes actually come in from the human resources itself. And I think that leads to quality in the long run. So when we have in India much a ranking like your UCAS, and when you
Mhm.
say that you are number 10 or number 2 on that UCAS list, what really makes up the quality is the institution as a whole, not just the building or the furniture or the services, but the human resources that build up that whole thing.
That sounds fascinating. So then we couldn't imagine a greater contrast. Here you were in an Indian technical university, and then the sudden switch to a public library in Deptford. And for those who are not familiar, Deptford is one of the probably the most one of the poorest regions of London, with lots and lots of sort of different sort of ethnic communities, and I could imagine quite a contrast to an academic library.
Yes, indeed. So when I moved to the UK in 2016,
Mhm.
I had absolutely no idea of how you apply for a job, how you get a job, what are the skill sets required, is your resume that you made in another country really valid here,
Mhm.
what are the recruiters looking for. uh, I sort of put up my CV on various job sites, Indeed, Read, all of the other ones. And I did get a call for a sort of an agency job. It was through an agency, and they said that there is a vacancy at Deptford. So, literally armed with a doctorate, 5 degrees in library science from India. So, I have a bachelor's and a master's and an MPhil and a PhD in library science. And I came to the UK and I started from ground zero.
Mm.
So, senior library assistant at Deptford Library.
Gosh.
It was lovely.
Mm.
Being in a public library was lovely, and I had never worked in a public library before. I found that there were so many things to learn. What I literally brought with me at that time was not my qualifications; it was my skill sets. So I think my very strong communication skills, the language itself, English being the language we spoke at home, so the language, uh, people tell me it's my smile. I don't know, but I think it's that connect with people,
Mm.
which sort of saw me at the desk, uh, helping people uh, find a book, do some printing. But along with that, I think there was a lot more that a public library really gives the librarian. Now that I reflect on it, it did give me a lot. It gave me the experience. It gave me those transferable skill sets, which I could then use in any interview going forward. But it taught me things that I never really knew. I think in the first week as a library assistant in Deptford, they told me you have to count the cash. And I'm looking there and thinking, is the 5p bigger than the 50p, or is the coin that looks heavier of more value? I had absolutely no idea of currency in the UK. So you can say I started from ground zero, literally.
Goodness me. I was going to ask you what you learned from public libraries that's applicable to academic institutions, and maybe counting the cash might be one of them, but maybe not. But did you learn, were there skills that you could transfer from one to the other?
Yes, I did. So when I moved from Tedford, I learned things like event management, and actually I had done a lot of event management back in India. A lot of it was voluntary. Uh, I worked for the local parish and I did a lot of events for them, and I did events for the community, and I had helped to set up a children's library in the community. And a lot of those skill sets then got sort of intermingled, and you sort of realize that if you've done it once, you can then always volunteer and say, I know how to do it. So I know how to set up a very detailed time flow for an event, something that I sort of learned, but I used in so many other events. So when we had authors coming in, when we had all of these events, uh, I sort of knew how to do it because I had done it.
Hmm, fascinating. So, and then after your experience at Deptford, you then got a job, I think, at Roehampton at an academic library. So, how did that change come about?
Roehampton was the public library just next to the
Okay.
Roehampton Academic Library,
Hmm.
which had an added advantage that we had a nice mix of customers,
Hmm.
uh, both from the local community and from the university itself.
Hmm.
Uh, and I moved there as a library manager. So
Hmm.
it allowed me to bring my management skills to the forefront. It also helped me to take on some of the stuff that I had learned at Deptford, to build on some of the stuff that I had learned back in India, and to put it all together into a really nice mix. So some of the students that came in, I sometimes saw them sitting at computers and going through their dissertations. And so I just put my head in and say, oh, is that your dissertation? Can I help? Can I have a look at it? And I sort of give them suggestions. And that went really well, because then I had, sometimes they came in really late in the evening and said, would you mind taking a look at this? And I learned what topics they were doing. I pulled out resources for them. I managed to pull out resources from Google Scholar for them, some of the things that they weren't aware about, but always grateful students. Along with that, we did a lot of events. So I think getting authors in, uh, planning some of those events, uh, getting some funding in, doing something different. So I got a funding for a project that I did, which was called the Roehampton Kaleidoscope. And this was to strengthen the skill sets of Urdu speaking ladies in Roehampton, who I often found came to the library with their children, only because they were not comfortable with the language. And I could see that the children spoke fluent English, the parents struggled. And so we got this funding and we set up a series of sessions. So we got someone to teach them English. We did English conversations. We did small food events. We did like a meet and greet thing, something with the NHS for well-being. So it was a whole thing. And then this was the funding I got from the National Acquisition Group, NAG. And then I did go and speak to about the project at Birmingham, and how the funding had helped to change the sort of outlook of women in the local community. And I believe that those English speaking classes are still on at Roehampton, and that they have a lot of takers. So that was one of those things that helped me. Along with that, I was also the community librarian for the 11 libraries in Wandsworth. So I think my knowledge of Indian languages, uh, and
Extended.
this idea of what you can do for local communities. So it was not just buying books and putting up events, but going and talking to customers in all the different libraries, trying to see what their needs are,
Mm,
and then trying to put into place different programs for local
mm.
communities in the different libraries of the borough.
This sounds like you're engaging much more sort of down to earth, sort of from ground level with your users than you would have done in an academic institution.
I think so.
Sounds remarkable. So after this, you then switched to an academic library. I think you then moved to University of West London. Is that correct?
Yes.
And at University of West London, and of course the obvious. Well, can you tell us something about UWL, its profile, the sort of students, what sort of institution it is?
Um, it's a very interesting story. Um,
Mm.
when I went to work at Roehampton, I passed the University of West London every day on my travel. And you know how it is said that you have a vision and you dream and you fulfill the vision. So I looked at that building every day and said, one day I'm going to be inside there.
And you did it.
Well, the advert came up and I applied.
Mm,
Travel was the convenience because all of the other places that I worked in were really far, and travel was an issue.
mm,
Also, I think public libraries have such long hours that by the time
mm,
you got home, people were literally getting ready for bed, sort of.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
but at the University of West London, at the interview, I was able to demonstrate how my skill sets from the public library could actually be transferred to the academic library, in terms of international students, in terms of understanding diverse needs, in terms of having worked as a community librarian, in terms of understanding those deadlines for students, and the stress and the anxiety that comes from that, and how we as information professionals can help them just by that little nudge, just by those couple of links, just by
mm,
sort of having a chat and helping them
mm,
figure out where they are in their research.
mm.
So I think that was it.
Yeah. So University of West London is a teaching institution rather than a research institution, correct?
It is a teaching and a research institution.
Mm,
We have, I think, around uh, more than 250 PhDs, I think, very recently. I
Mhm.
am the link for the graduate school and
Ah,
for the PhD. So it is a research and a teaching institution. Uh, Various subjects and topics ranging from fashion to law to biosciences to
mm,
music
mm.
and hospitality. So a very wide range of that. So I am a subject librarian for the School of Medicine and Biosciences. I was previously a subject librarian for music and performing arts, but I still hold on to a small bit of that as well.
Goodness me, quite a quite a range of skills. So, how do you? Oh, what sort of age are the students? Are we talking about? Are these straight from school or what?
A very good mix, actually. Home students and international students, undergraduates, some out of school, postgraduates with experience in the industry they come from, PhD students who might also be lecturers either in our institution or in other institutions,
Mm-hmm.
mature learners who might have returned back to education maybe after a couple of years of bringing up kids or doing other jobs. So it's very very diverse, very vibrant but very diverse. uh, that is the reason why any of the facilities or services that we put up have to take this whole diverse user base into consideration in terms of timings, in terms of the format of the information that's offered. I just had a chat with a student this morning, and I showed them a couple of e-resources, and they said, "Do you have print books?" Because I'm more comfortable with print books. And on the other side of the spectrum, there are those who just want the click thing, and they say, "Oh no, I've got all I need from your ebook collection, so that's okay for me." So to sort of balance it all.
Hmm. That's not quite so simple in that um, I think I attended a fascinating presentation you gave recently where you talked about some of these differences about some people expecting print, some people expecting e-resources. It must be difficult to manage the expectations and the knowledge of this very diverse groups of students who are coming to you for help.
Yes, but I think one of the key things is to what you call listen. I begin by when you ask them to uh, tell me more about your research or tell me what is the topic, and then in my mind I'm breaking up their topic into keywords already, and I have it all written down on a paper as they're talking to me. And often I my approach is to tell students, I know nothing about your topic, I know nothing about your subject. We're starting on a blank slate, so tell me. And often they will then tell me in a way which they sometimes don't see the evidence, and then when they're telling me, I'm like, okay, that's your objective, that's your evidence, that's your limitation. And they're like, oh yeah, I never thought about it before. I think basically this rapport that you build with a student uh, when they come to you for a request for information is a teacher, sort of not always a teacher, more like a buddy. I always think of myself as a teacher buddy. I don't know if there's a word like that, I just coined it.
Mm,
But uh, the teacher bit where you are explaining the ethics to them, where you're explaining, oh, that would go against copyright, that you can't
mm,
do,
mm,
that would come up in your Turnitin. But the buddy bit where you're like, oh yeah, why not try it, that would work, why don't you do this, and small sorts, those sort of nudges into pushing them more into the research element, but also pushing them to try to come to a logical conclusion themselves. So at the end of that conversation, they should not only go back with a lot of information that I have given them, but they should go back feeling satisfied that they have unraveled for themselves the mystery of that assignment topic.
I wish I'd known you when I was having to write essays. I would have it would have been a great help. Now, this sounds like a good moment to move on to AI because you're clearly very enthusiastic about AI, and I was very impressed by the way that you're presenting and engaging your students in AI. So, where did this interest come from?
I think it comes when I look back. It comes from the bit of thinking. I think my love for the science in understanding how the human body works, or how the mind works, and in thinking how much of it a machine can really replicate. uh, there is so much of information out there that tells you how much the uh, AI can do for you. And but then there is always the bit that I keep asking, uh, can AI really do this for me? Uh, the small bit which I'm sometimes not really sure of. We read so much about hallucinations, we read so much about bias,
Hmm.
we read so much about words that I don't even know. And I was reading about voice cloning the other day, and I'm like, oh wow. I did Google Translate to my cousin in a voice translation to my cousin in Portugal, and he comes back and saying, "This is not your voice." And it's good to try and figure out, what then is my voice, that is my individuality, isn't it? If
Hmm.
AI takes over me, what does AI take away from me?
Hmm.
It
Absolutely.
might think like me sometimes, as it gets better and better.
Hmm.
But then there's something about me. When I do presentations, one of the things I like to do is I've taken an image of myself and I have put it through various AI tools to give it various looks. And then at the end, I say, which is the real me? And that is probably what the supervisor is looking for in the research thesis, what
Hmm.
the academic is looking for
Hmm.
in the assignment answer.
Hmm.
And I think what anybody who's asking you something is looking out for, where is the real you?
Hmm.
I think that's my take on AI. I am just currently in the process of uh, sorting out a workshop on AI strategy for my institution.
Gosh.
And so we're doing that on Friday. And
Hmm.
so I was doing quite a bit of research, and um, I was reading this really nice book about written by Kate Crawford, which says
Hmm.
that current AI is neither artificial nor intelligent.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I looked at that one and I thought, yes, when you go to think of it, I think AI has changed the definition of what we called artificial or what we called intelligent, and I think we just
Hmm.
have AI to blame for that.
Hmm. But what's
But lots
remarkable?
of things that AI can do is what I nudge students into doing. So I
Hmm.
went to the Lilac conference,
Hmm.
and there was the keynote address from Mahabali. I have followed her and read all her blogs. Uh, Really interesting, where she explained Goblin Tools. Goblin Tools
Hmm.
is an AI tool that has been developed for neurodiverse people.
Hmm.
But people who are stressed, not really sure how it works, working against deadlines. I think that's probably all of us. And I
Hmm.
like the bit that Goblin Tools breaks up a task into small bits for you. Now, those are the sort of tools I would push across to students and say, try this. Uh, Instead of going on to Chat GPT and telling Chat GPT to write a paragraph for you,
Hmm.
could you not ask Goblin Tool to break up that into tasks for you, and you
Hmm.
can then work on the individual ones?
Hmm.
So something like an ethical AI thing. So
Hmm.
I'm sort of working towards some of that.
Hmm.
When I think about my role as an information professional,
Mm.
there is the big academic integrity hanging in front of us, isn't it?
Mm.
The ethical use of AI, or the ethical
Mm.
use of information as a whole. So I think we work hand in hand with academics to teach our students that, to explain the difference to our students. So
Mm. You,
that's my
your
take
take.
on a
Mm.
librarian.
You state in your profile you're committed to information literacy. So do you think there is such a thing as AI literacy?
Yes, I definitely think there is. In the learning outcomes that we put out when we teach information literacy. At my institution, I have added the AI literacy bit. And I'm trying to sift through what is ethical AI, but I am also trying to sort of explain. You can sometimes put Chat GPT as another source of information
Hmm.
and look at it through the same the crap method that we do, the currency and the relevance and the accuracy. You could look
Hmm.
at it the same way, because you
Hmm.
can treat it as an information source. But there is so much more to AI that you wouldn't really understand it, isn't it? I mean, if you took a paragraph from a book, it is a paragraph from a book. If you ask AI for a paragraph, it gets you a paragraph from 5 books and doesn't even tell you where it is getting those from.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit more than just information literacy. So I think the evaluation from those scornful pillars of information literacy, I think the evaluation bit has gained more momentum with the introduction of AI today. I think we are in the information society. We have the information rich and the information poor countries, and
Hmm.
we are seeing how, from what we called digital divide, that really divides the haves and the have nots. I think the AI, or using AI, is going to have a very important place going forward.
Yes, that sounds that sounds fascinating. So, uh, are there a couple? Are there any examples of actually where you're recommended your students to make use of AI? You mentioned not just asking ChatGPT to write your essay, but are there concrete examples of where you're asking them to make specific use of AI tools?
I'm sometimes telling students to take your assignment question and put it into an AI tool and see what it comes up with, and then to see whether it is really that 1,500 or 2,000 words, and then to try and pick those, to maybe copy a sentence from that in and paste it in maybe Google and see where it's actually come from. Some of those bits, but other things like, say, Grammarly, uh, a very good tool to use. Especially, I have a number of students who confide in me that they have dyslexia and that they struggle with the
Mm.
um, spelling sometimes. Here is a tool which you can use, which will help you to.
Mm.
I was on the acknowledgement page of uh, a postgraduate student's dissertation because I nudged them into things like that. So I think we have Research Rabbit, we have summarizing. Uh, I'll probably put out an AI tool and say use it to summarize maybe a 17-page research article into 400 words. That's what Research Rabbit would do for you, or any of the other summarizing Humata would do for you. But then to go through that summary and see how much you really have understood, and are you really missing the point, and are you still wanting to go back and look at the findings of that research article? Are you really satisfied with that summary? Uh, or do you want to go back to that article? It is a decision that at the end of the day the individual will have to take. And we might use AI for certain things, and yet sometimes we might not be satisfied enough, and might want to go back to our older ways of information search and retrieval.
Mhm. So you're talking about AI as a complement and a comparison tool rather than a substitute for thinking.
Yes.
Hmm.
Um, I I'm still looking at how much more AI has to offer. I think one of those things is, I don't know, 300 plus AI tools, increasing every day, merging, changing. So you can't really say I used this, because by the time your supervisor has you looked at it, it's probably not there.
Changed.
And yet, uh, to see how AI can be a tool that can better not just your writing, but your reading, your understanding, your
Hmm.
analyzing, your interpretation of
Hmm.
data to make more
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
Sometimes, simple things like, I'm looking for a title for a research paper. These are the words I want to use. So I want to say it is a study, I want to say it is an analysis, I want to say it is this and this. um, Chat GPT will coin 10 different titles for me that I
Hmm.
can select, and they all look very nice. When I go and when I actually search, somebody's already done. There must be 10 other people who have done a research study using the same
Hmm.
exact title.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, no, I better use the one that I had thought of. So it's just, I think, evaluating before you use. That's
Hmm.
my understanding of the whole AI
Hmm.
thing.
Yes, I can agree with that. I know that ChatGPT and the like are sort of great for not writing my CV, but checking I haven't missed out anything when I update my CV. It's very good as a sort of as a check. Um, so going back to you mentioned you're doing some work on the AI policy for your institution, and I think you've recently done a presentation about AI guidance. So what do you think is the role of the library in promoting or developing the use of AI across the institution?
Okay, I have a very interesting story to that one. I was copied into a series of conversations between the academic and the student about the use of AI. And it went back and forth for sort of half a day. And I didn't respond. I was just reading that conversation and wondering why I was being copied into it. And somewhere down the line, the academic says, I think your subject librarian is the best person to talk to about this. And I'm like, great, thank you. Thank you for finally explaining to me what is my role in this whole thing. But academics feel that information professionals are the right people and the best people to talk to about the ethical use of information, AI included. So I think that is a responsibility. It's also an opportunity for us to showcase what we know, what we can do, uh, to build on the value of librarianship in an academic institution. But you can't build on that unless you upskill yourself. So I think along with that role comes a responsibility that you also need to upskill your own knowledge in that field. So probably read more, go to more conferences. I was at the CILIP UKIG course yesterday by Andrew Cox and Suvodip Mazumdar. That was really interesting and different insights. When they spoke about AI, and I'm trying to sort of figure out how old is AI, and they
Mm,
spoke about the spam folder in the mailbox. And I'm like, oh, yes, I never really figured out why those emails about garden furniture are going to the spam folder
mm,
and how they really go. But if you try and unravel it, and then these are examples you can then explain, use to explain to students
mm,
that AI has existed long before we really called it AI or we really looked at it that way. And I think it then becomes helpful because you sometimes need these to work out some examples in class, and I think students understand better when you do more practical things.
Mm.
Like I do a debate in class about my presentation always says referencing, why do academia make such a fuss about it? And when you have the for and the against, and it's really interesting because it's good to see what is the students take on referencing, so that we sort of see it from their point of view, and then you can sort of gently explain the academic point of view.
Mm.
My presentations are very vibrant, very colorful, lots of animation, things flying off the screen all the time. I have
Mm.
images of my cat, and I often tell students I have that my cat has actually given me permission to use that photograph, and if my cat didn't, that would be copyright. And after a really nice laugh in the class, I think that's when that idea of copyright sinks in,
Mm.
because if I didn't use the photo of my cat, and if I use the photo of one of you in the class, and
Mm.
you then saw this presentation of mine on the internet, how would you feel?
Mm.
And I think those are the things that get students into thinking about ethics.
Mm. Mm. I think that's a very good point, and unfortunately, I think many academics have little awareness of intellectual property when it comes to using things like photographs and graphics in their work. So I think that's a very relevant point. But I think you've made a fundamental point here about what appears to me to be a sort of a very central and perhaps increasingly visible role for libraries in this. You mentioned ethics and all the issues raised by the use of AI, which is I think a tremendously important point, and one where technical awareness becomes central rather than an optional. It's absolutely sort of vital for the skills of the librarian. So that's a fascinating, I think, lesson. Um, just one last point on your work at UWL. I notice you're part of the Women's Higher Education Network. How does that? What's that involvement?
It was the Women's Higher Education Network was about empowering women to think that there is place for us up there at the top, that there is a steady road that goes up to the top, that we shouldn't be afraid to take that road, and that it's not going to be a simple, flat, and easy road. And it was really interesting that when I was at that WEN conference, I got a call from my line manager telling me that I was successful at the interview to the post of academic support manager.
Wonderful.
So
Very timely, very timely. But among all these other things, you're also are still finding time to write lots of presentations. I counted at least eight publications or presentations that you did just in 2024. So when do you get the time to do all these?
I think we always make time for the things we love to do. In fact, my personal SWOT analysis always looks at opportunities. I'm hoping to get my senior fellowship. I'm hoping to get this year, trying to work for another qualification through SILIP. Uh,
Gosh.
I am on the SCONUL CPD task group 4, and hope helping to plan the SLA conference. Uh, I'm a school governor and just was on the recruitment panel for the role of head teacher. I do a lot of work in my parish. I have been back in India. I have been on the editorial committee. I also am a PhD adjudicator for a university in India. I
Mhm.
am on the editorial board of a Polish journal. I am proofreading for another journal. Uh, Lots, very varied roles. But I think life would be very boring if we just did one task and retired at the end of our career, isn't it? It would be a nice mix, because you sometimes think, what will you do if you don't have this job today? And my backpack says, oh, I could pick out any of these and go on and do all of these varied bits. uh, but one of the things, I'm very spiritual, I'm Catholic, I'm very spiritual, and one of the parables that Jesus said is to use the talents that you have been given. And
Mhm,
I think that I have been given these talents, that I am blessed to have these skills, to have people around who support me, who encourage me, to have amazing line managers. That's a shout out to my current line manager, Davina Omar, but also to my former line managers at Roehampton, Chris Ansby. Every time I went with a project, he was like, yeah, go on, no worries. Even if it meant it would might not succeed, but that encouragement to say go on. And I think when you have people who support you, uh, it gives you that strength to go on, it gives you that courage to go on. And
mhm,
in your personal SWOT analysis, if you try to change your weaknesses to opportunities and
mhm,
try and see uh, what you can do with what you have. We're constantly talking about not having enough money, resources, time, lots of those things. But and it is a juggle sometimes. I do say it is a juggle sometimes. I have a personal life, two of my boys at university, and the cooking for four people when I get back home. So it's, and the cat. So it's all of that bit. But in spite of that, I think at the end of the day, when you go to bed and you feel you've had a good day, how do you define good? Is what makes you sleep well at night?
mhm. Absolutely. It seems almost churlish after you've listed all those activities to ask about what you do in your leisure time. But do you read for pleasure?
Yes, I do. It would be very strange for a librarian to say I don't read. But Netflix is competing with librarians. A couple of things that I am currently reading. I'm reading this one that says this book may
Ah,
change
yes.
your life.
Wow.
And I am reading it, one, because it is a medical thing and something I love. It's by an Indian doctor. And if there is a book that can change your life, then the
This is it.
librarian definitely has to read that one. But there's another one that I'm reading, and this one's good as well. This is called The Kind Librarian
Gosh.
by Helen Rimmer. And
Mm.
I like the bit where how do you define kind and how do you define nice? And do you always have to say yes to be called nice? Can you sometimes say no in a nice way and still be called kind? When you are a manager and you have these sometimes negotiations or difficult situations where it is personally affects you in terms of I should have done that, or maybe that wasn't the best decision I took. uh, I think something like this will help to sort of change my definitions of kind.
I think this is something I learned as a parent, how to be nice by saying no. Anyway, Janice, this is so fascinating. It sounds to me like the next book you show should be the one that you write about all your anecdotes and what you've learned from all these different user groups and different constituencies that you've worked with over your remarkable career. So Janice, anyway, many thanks for sharing with us your stories about what you've learned and what you do. And I'm very grateful that we've been able to take on board some of the things that you've learned.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this wonderful interaction, and thank you for the idea. I will probably write, but like I said, what else I have in my backpack now is probably a book I will write when I retire.
Absolutely, that could be a project for your retirement. Anyway, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.